My wife came home and found an unmarked box on our doorstep. Inside was a single VHS tape labeled Watch Me. We didn't own a VCR, but we borrowed one. When we pressed play, we saw footage of our own living room from last night, but we were both asleep in bed. So who was holding the camera? My wife, Laura, and I had just finished our usual dinner routine. The hum of the city was distant, leaving our home enveloped in a comfortable silence. As Laura cleared the dishes, the doorbell rang. Are we expecting anyone? Laura called from the kitchen. No, I replied, heading toward the door. Upon opening it, I found a plain, unmarked cardboard box resting on our doorstep. There was no address, no postage, just a simple box with a VHS tape inside, labeled Watch Me. What's that? Laura asked, drying her hands on a dish towel as she joined me. Not sure, I said, showing her the tape. Found it just now. Laura frowned. We don't even own a VCR. True, I said, turning the tape over in my hands. But maybe we can borrow one. I'm curious. Curiosity piqued. We reached out to our neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, an elderly lady known for keeping vintage electronics. She was more than happy to lend us her VCR, reminiscing about the good old days of videotapes. Back home, we connected the VCR to our TV, the static crackling as the tape began to play. The screen flickered, and to our astonishment, it displayed footage of our own living room. The timestamp in the corner indicated it was from the previous night. Laura and I exchanged uneasy glances. But we were both asleep upstairs, she whispered. On the screen, the camera panned slowly around the room, capturing the dimly lit space. Suddenly, the lens focused on the staircase. A figure emerged from the shadows, Laura. She was dressed in her nightgown, her movements slow and deliberate as she descended the stairs. That's impossible, Laura gasped, gripping my arm. I never left our bed. We watched in stunned silence as the on-screen Laura approached the front door, unlocking it. Another figure stepped inside, a man, his face obscured by the camera angle. They spoke in hushed tones before embracing intimately. My heart pounded in my chest. Who is that? I demanded, turning to Laura. Tears welled up in her eyes. I swear, I don't know. I have no memory of this. The footage continued, showing the two figures on the couch, engaged in acts that made me avert my eyes. The betrayal was evident, yet Laura's genuine confusion suggested something more sinister at play. The next morning, I couldn't shake the images from my mind. Laura was equally disturbed, insisting she had no recollection of the events. Determined to uncover the truth, we decided to install hidden cameras throughout the house. That night, sleep eluded me. Every creak of the house made me jump. Around 2 a.m., I noticed Laura stirring beside me. She sat up, her movements robotic. Laura, I whispered. She didn't respond. Instead, she stood and walked out of the bedroom. I followed discreetly as she made her way downstairs. Through the dim light, I saw her unlock the front door. The same man from the tape entered. Rage bubbled within me. Who the hell are you? I bellowed, switching on the lights. The man froze, his face now visible, a face I recognized from old photographs. It was Daniel, Laura's ex-boyfriend from college. Daniel, Laura murmured, as if waking from a dream. She looked around, bewildered. Why are we downstairs? You don't remember? I asked, my voice laced with hurt. She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. I was asleep. I thought. Daniel took a step back. I should go. No, you should explain, I demanded. He hesitated before speaking. Laura reached out to me a few weeks ago. Said she was unhappy and wanted to reconnect. We've been meeting at night. Laura's eyes widened in shock. That's not true. I would never. Then how do you explain the tapes? I interjected. I don't know, she sobbed. I swear, I don't know. The weight of the situation pressed down on me. Could Laura be sleepwalking? Could someone be manipulating her? The question swirled in my mind. Determined to get answers, I suggested Laura see a sleep specialist. After several tests, the results were shocking. Laura had been subjected to a form of hypnosis, likely triggered by a specific stimulus. Digging deeper, we discovered that Daniel had studied psychology in college, with a focus on hypnotherapy. Confronting him with this information, he broke down and confessed. He had been using subtle triggers to manipulate Laura into meeting him, exploiting her vulnerable state during sleep. The betrayal cut deep, but understanding the manipulation helped Laura and me begin the healing process. We sought counseling, both individually and as a couple, to rebuild trust and address the trauma. Months later, as we sat together on the couch, Laura squeezed my hand. I'm so sorry for everything, she whispered. I kissed her forehead. We'll get through this. Together. And we did. The road was long and fraught with challenges, but our love proved resilient. Through therapy and open communication, we emerged stronger, leaving the shadows of the past behind us. Even though we thought we were healing, things didn't really go back to normal. Something was off. Laura was still distant, even though she tried to act like she was okay. I caught her staring off into space sometimes, like she was somewhere else entirely. Her eyes would glaze over, and if I asked what she was thinking about, she'd just smile and say, nothing. But it didn't feel like nothing. A few weeks after the whole Daniel thing, I decided to check the footage from the security cameras I had kept running. I hadn't looked at them in a while, things seemed calm. But for some reason, something inside me told me to check. Maybe it was the way Laura seemed distracted. Maybe it was just instinct. I went through the last 3 nights, and I found something. At exactly 2:17 a.m., for 3 nights straight, Laura sat up in bed, eyes wide open. She didn't get out of bed this time. She just stared at the wall across from her. No blinking, no movement, for nearly 30 minutes each time. The 4th night, she stood up, walked to the corner of the room, and whispered something. There was no one there. I played the video over and over, trying to hear what she said. I turned up the volume. I already did what you asked. Please stop coming, she whispered. I paused the footage. My hands were shaking. Who was she talking to? That same night, I sat up waiting. I didn't let on that I knew anything. I pretended to sleep, but I stayed alert. At exactly 2:17 a.m., Laura stirred. I watched her sit up slowly. Her eyes were open, wide and glassy. She turned toward the corner of the room again. Please stop, she whispered. She turned and looked directly at me. But not at me, through me. I almost called her name, but something held me back. I just watched. After a moment, she laid back down like nothing happened. The next morning, I didn't say anything to her. I needed more. I needed to know if something else was going on. So I started digging. I looked into Daniel's background again. The hypnosis stuff. I contacted a professor he studied under back at the University of Illinois. The guy was in his 70s now, retired. We talked on the phone for an hour. When I mentioned Daniel, the old man got quiet. He said Daniel had always been obsessed with pushing boundaries. He studied covert hypnosis techniques, ones not exactly ethical. Things involving long-term suggestion, symbol triggers, subconscious commands. The professor thought Daniel had dropped the whole thing. I told him what had been happening with Laura. There was a long pause. Then he said something that sent chills down my spine. Did he ever give her anything? A gift? Something to wear? I remembered a necklace. Daniel had given Laura a necklace the last time they met. She said he gave it to her in the moment, to remember the good times. It was silver, with a little black stone in the center. She hadn't taken it off since. I didn't want to believe it could be that simple. But I waited until she was in the shower that night. I found the necklace on her nightstand, picked it up, and put it in a metal toolbox in the garage. I didn't say a word. That night, she didn't move. Slept through till morning. But when she woke up, she looked tired. Pale. She kept rubbing her temples. I had a weird dream, she said. I don't remember it, but it felt loud. I nodded but didn't tell her anything yet. I needed to be sure. So the next night, I put the necklace back on the nightstand. At 2:17 a.m., she sat up again. Same blank stare. Same whisper. Please stop coming. That was it. I called the professor again. Told him what happened. He said he'd only heard of this once, an experimental technique involving object triggers combined with sleep suggestion, designed to cause emotional dependence and control behavior during sleep states. It wasn't a prank. It wasn't even hypnosis in the traditional sense. It was closer to mental programming. I asked him what to do. He said, destroy the object. Don't let her near it again. And watch her closely. The mind doesn't like being rewired. It fights back. So I did it. I took the necklace to the alley behind our house. I smashed it with a hammer and threw the pieces in the trash bin. I didn't tell Laura. I just said I lost it. She cried when she found out. Like, real tears. Full breakdown. She clutched her chest like she couldn't breathe. She looked at me like I had betrayed her. You don't understand, she said. He told me I needed it. It made the voices stop. What voices? I asked. Her mouth clamped shut. She hasn't mentioned it again since. But every night, I sit up and watch the clock. And sometimes, just before 2:17 a.m., I hear footsteps in the hallway. Even when she's asleep beside me, I started keeping a journal, writing down everything, every whisper, every movement. I recorded the exact time the hallway creaked, the way Laura's pupils looked in the dark, the way her voice sometimes changed when she talked in her sleep. I needed patterns. I needed something that made sense. Because nothing was making sense anymore. It wasn't just the 2:17 a.m. wake-ups. Laura started saying things she didn't remember later. Random phrases. She once walked into the kitchen, poured coffee into the sink instead of a cup, and said, he lives in the walls now. When I asked her who, she looked at me like I was the crazy one. No one, she said. Why? I thought maybe she was messing with me. But Laura never had that kind of cruel streak. And she looked genuinely confused half the time. One night, she screamed in her sleep. First time that happened. I rushed to her, but her eyes were open. She was pointing at the corner of our room. She kept screaming the same thing over and over. He's not gone. He's not gone. He's not gone. I turned the lights on, held her until she calmed down. She didn't remember a thing in the morning. I decided to go back to the trash bin where I threw out the necklace, just in case. I know it sounds crazy, but I had this gut feeling. Maybe Daniel had put something else in it. Maybe there was a microchip or something. But when I got to the alley, the bin was empty. Completely. I looked around, checked the surrounding trash bins. Nothing. The weird part? That bin shouldn't have been emptied. It wasn't trash day. That's when I saw it. On the pavement by the fence. One of the little black stones from the necklace. It was burned. Or melted. The silver backing around it was blackened like it had been hit with a blowtorch. I picked it up using a napkin and tossed it in my glove box. And from that day, everything got worse. Our house started changing. Lights would flicker at exactly 2:17 a.m. Our dog, Rex, refused to go near our bedroom. He would bark at the wall. Not just any wall. The corner. The same corner Laura always stared at when she was sleep-talking. Then, one night, something new happened. We heard static. Not from the TV. We hadn't used the VCR since the tape incident. I had unplugged everything. It was coming from the baby monitor. We didn't even have a baby. Laura said she bought it a year ago when she thought she was pregnant, just to prepare early. But we never had kids. The box had never been opened. At least I thought. That night, it was on. Crackling. Whispering. I pressed my ear closer and heard it clearly. Her voice. Whispering. He's inside you too. I ripped the thing out of the wall and threw it in the garage. The next morning, I found it back in the kitchen. Plugged in. Powered on. Static humming. Laura swore she didn't move it. I believed her. I went to a tech friend of mine, someone who owed me a favor. He analyzed the black stone from the necklace. He called me 2 days later, nervous as hell. Dude, that thing had a data chip in it. Like, storage. And not basic. Someone used this thing to send and receive signals. From where? I asked. He hesitated. I don't know. It's encrypted. But I did find video files. Short clips. He emailed them to me. I opened the first one. It was footage of me. Sleeping. The camera angle was from the foot of our bed. Laura was standing over me in every single clip. Watching me. Not blinking. Her mouth would move like she was saying something, but the audio was always distorted. There were dozens of clips. All at 2:17 a.m. I started watching them out of order. One clip froze my blood. Laura wasn't just standing over me. She was holding something. A knife. She never moved. Never stabbed me. Just stood there. Holding it. Breathing heavy. The file timestamp was from 3 days ago. I never woke up. That night, I locked our bedroom door. Hid the key. Slept with the lights on. She woke up in the middle of the night and walked to the door. Tried to open it. Calmly. Quietly. Then started whispering through the crack. I know you can hear him now. That was the first time I felt something. Not fear. Not yet. I felt cold. Right behind my neck. Like someone was breathing on me. But Laura was on the other side of the door. That's when I knew. Whatever Daniel started didn't stop when the necklace broke. It didn't end with hypnosis or manipulation. Something else got in. And now it was spreading. The cold spot behind my neck didn't go away. Even days later, I still felt it sometimes. When I was alone, when I was driving, even when I was sitting in my office trying to pretend life was still somewhat normal. But it wasn't. Laura's behavior had only gotten worse. The whispers through the bedroom door became clearer. And I started hearing things when I was awake. Faint murmurs in corners of empty rooms. Flashes of something moving just outside my line of sight. The worst part? I stopped being scared. I was getting used to it. That terrified me more than anything. I reached out to Daniel. Yeah, I know how that sounds. But I didn't know where else to go. I still had his number from the night everything blew up. I didn't call. I just sent a message. We need to talk. I know you did something to her. Tell me how to undo it. He didn't respond for 2 days. Then one night, the doorbell rang. I opened it, and there he was. Wearing a coat like he'd come straight from a flight. Hair a mess. Eyes sunken, like he hadn't slept in weeks. He stepped inside without a word. Looked around. She's not here, he asked. She's at her sister's for the weekend. I lied. Talk. Daniel didn't sit. He stood near the living room doorway, where the VHS tape had once shown her unlocking that door for him. I could see the memory was hitting him too. I didn't mean for it to go this far, he said. Too far? You hypnotized my wife and made her cheat on me in her sleep. He winced. I didn't make her. At first, I just wanted to see if I could. I planted triggers. Words. The necklace. It was all layered suggestion. Things she didn't even know she was responding to. But the more I visited, something changed. What do you mean, something? She started talking to things I couldn't see, he said. Told me she was seeing shadows. And then one night, I came in, and she was already downstairs. The door was open. The air felt wrong. Like I wasn't alone. I left and didn't come back. I didn't believe all of it. Part of me thought he was just trying to pass the blame. But his voice trembled. His hands shook. He was genuinely rattled. There's something in your house, he said. And I think I woke it up. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because of what he said, but because I found the necklace again. On my nightstand. Where it had first appeared. I knew I had destroyed it. I had burned it, crushed it. But there it was. Perfect. Silver. The black stone glinting faintly in the dark. I didn't touch it. Instead, I took Laura's car and drove to her sister's place in Evanston. She greeted me at the door, looking tired and cautious. She's been acting weird again, her sister whispered. Not like last time. Worse. She talks in her sleep. Says your name. Says you're not you anymore. I asked to see her. When I walked in the guest room, Laura was sitting up in bed. Awake. She smiled when she saw me. But it wasn't her smile. Something in her eyes looked distant. I told you, she said softly. He's inside you too. I sat down, trying to stay calm. Laura, listen to me. I need you to tell me. What happened the night Daniel gave you the necklace? Everything. She blinked. Once. Twice. Then something cracked. Her lip trembled. Her whole body started shaking. I didn't know, she said. I thought it was just old memories. Dreams. But then I started remembering things that didn't happen. Conversations we never had. Places I'd never been. It's like he gave me a second life. Her sister came in. She barely eats, barely sleeps. Whatever's happening, it's getting worse. And then it all snapped. Laura stood up so fast the chair tipped over. You want to know the truth? She screamed. You want to know why I kept the necklace? Because it was the only thing that made the noise stop. The only thing that gave me peace. You don't understand. When I'm asleep, I'm not me. I'm someone else. And he loves her. Who? I asked. She stared dead at me. You. The room went quiet. Her sister gasped. I stepped back. Laura. She sank to her knees, sobbing. I don't know what's real anymore. I don't know who I am when I close my eyes. And sometimes, I think I like her better than me. That was the breaking point. Her sister called for help. Laura didn't fight it. She just kept whispering over and over. He's inside you too. They admitted her to a psychiatric facility that night. Daniel disappeared again. I stayed in a hotel for a few days. I couldn't go back to the house. Not yet. When I finally returned, the necklace was gone. But the static? Still there. I could hear it in the silence. I could feel the cold spot in the hallway. I saw shadows where none should be. I called a paranormal investigator. Not because I believed in ghosts, but because nothing else made sense. He walked through the house with equipment I didn't understand. Took readings. Asked questions. When he left, he said, whatever this is, it was invited in. And it doesn't want to leave. That was 3 weeks ago. Laura's still in care. Her episodes have calmed down, but she doesn't talk much. I visit her. Sometimes she smiles. Sometimes she just stares. Daniel never responded again. I sleep with the lights on. I haven't heard whispers in a while, but I still don't feel alone. I think. Maybe she was right. Maybe it's inside me too. The story ends with unresolved supernatural implications and psychological uncertainty. Laura is institutionalized after a complete mental and emotional collapse, believing an unknown force is possessing both her and the narrator. Daniel vanishes after admitting to experimenting with unethical mental conditioning, indirectly inviting an unseen entity into their lives. The narrator is left haunted by guilt, by doubt, and by something he can no longer explain. The story closes on a chilling, ambiguous note. The protagonist is no longer sure where the real horror began, or if it has ended.